All right, guys. For this lesson, we're going to be going through EE.2 in IXL for Algebra 1. We're going to be talking about simplifying radical expressions. That's been our in-class goal recently, and we'll show you how to get through this specific assignment. We'll start off with the first question here, but we'll jump pretty quickly through and try to keep this one fairly short. Okay, so our goal is anytime we have an expression where it is underneath a radical. So in this instance, it's underneath a square root. Remember, radical is just the name for this symbol right here. We're going to deal with the coefficient and whatever variables are given just a little bit differently. Whatever whatever coefficient is given, in this case the 20, we're going to break that apart using like a factor tree. So remember that this is all going to be underneath a radical. Maybe I can go to this pin instead, or let's turn that off. There we go. So let's say we have a 20. We're going to create a factor tree, and we're going to think about what are two numbers besides 1 and 20 that will give us 20. So in my head, I think maybe a 10 and a 2. But if you went with like 4 and 5 or something like that, it should give you the same things at the end. We're going to continue breaking things apart until we have prime numbers. So numbers that can only break into themselves in 1. So 2 is going to stay as is, but 10 would break apart into a 5 and a 2. And remember, these are all multiplied together. So 5, a 2, and a 2. The u to the 8th power, remember that means essentially what I have here is a u times a u times a u. I'm going to have 8 of them. Let me see if there's a better way for me to do this here. Let me crank up the size. A u times, this is better to see, I think, times u. And you're going to have 8 of them. Ooh, that one didn't turn out very good. This is a little bit tricky with me writing with my finger right now. I need a stylus or something like that. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I need one more. Carrying off the screen there. But we'll get the idea. Essentially what's going on here is I'm looking for, because I'm taking the square root, I want to make things that are squared. And then the squared and the square root will cancel out, moving it outside the radical. So essentially what we'll have is I'll go through and I'll see how many pairs I can make, like how many matches, and then how many things don't have a match and they'll stay underneath. So let's go down here. I'm going to write over top of what we have, but that's all right. I'm going to have a radical symbol. Let's look at the number portion first. Since I have two 2's, they would become 2 squared, but 2 squared and the square root would cancel out, leaving me with just a 2. The 5 does not have a match, so it would go underneath. The u's, every time I have a set of 2, I would bring 1 out front. So there's a u, another one, that'd give me u squared, u to the 3rd power, u to the 4th power. So something like this. You could write out all 4 of those pairs and then push them together at the end if you wanted to, but something like this could be your final answer here. Because I didn't have anything else to push together, like I didn't have anything else in here, this would be my stopping point. I like to write my coefficient first in my answer, so let's just take a look at that. So let's go back to my arrow. I'll type in 2 u to the 4th power. Oh, I need to use this. 4th. Then I click the right arrow on my keyboard to get out from that. Radical, the only thing I have underneath is a 5. Brilliant. Okay, so let's clear off here. I'm actually going to hide that for a second. Let's jump and see if we have something different. Something on the outside here. Maybe if I use this pen tool, it'll be a bit easier. We'll see. We'll try it. So I have 4. Let's just ignore that 4 for a second. Let's look at the 12. The 12 could break apart into, let's say, 6 and 2. But remember, if you use something different, that's fine. 6 could be a 3 and a 2, and then our remaining 2. I think that looks a little bit cleaner. The m, I just have one of them, so it's just going to stay as an m. If that was like m squared, I would write 2 and so on. And then, change colors here. I think I used red last time. Underneath the radical, I don't have a match for that 3, so it stays underneath. I can cross off a match of 2's, so that would cancel out with the square root and bring it out front. And then the m would stay underneath. Now, the last part I need to remember before I type in my answer is that I originally had a 4 out front. So when I go to give my answer, I'm going to do the 4 times 2 and give myself an 8. And then I'll have radical 3m. So I just need to remember to include what we had there. Let's clear off again. Let's go forward and see if there's anything different. And if not, we will stop here. That's about the same. Now we're into the 90s. Okay, let's let's show this one just to see what we would get. This one's a little bit more difficult, obviously, but after this one, we'll wrap up. So let's do that 490 first. I might have to do this in sections given what I have room-wise on my screen. 490. I don't inherently know off the bat what multiplies into 490. I'm sure if I thought for a second I could get somewhere, but I do see that it is an even number, so it can divide by 2. So if I divide it by 2, I would get 2 and 245. I think I accidentally tapped on the screen over there. That's fine. So 2 is already prime, but the 245s can split apart. I see that it ends with a 5, so I can split it up again to 5 and 49. And then 49 is a perfect square, so when I go to take these one step further, I have a 2, a 5, and 49 splits into 7 and 7. I don't know why my screen's being ultra sensitive right now, but it works, I guess. So I'd have something like that. So for my answer, let's put that off to the side here. I see a pair of 7s, so I'm going to have a 7 out front. I have the original 4 out front as well. So a 7 and a 4 would give me a 28. So let's go ahead and write that. Underneath, I'm going to have a 2 and a 5, which would give me a 10. So with just the number part, that's what I have so far. Now, if I think about the letters, F to the 5th, that means I'm going to have 5 of them. So if I have 5 of the same thing, so let's do F, 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 F. We're paying our respects right here. So if I have 2 of something, remember it crosses out, and that would bring 1 out front. This would bring a second one out front, so I'd have F squared out front here. I'm running out of room. Let me see if I can rewrite here. Oops, I'm on the eraser. 28 F squared, and then 10. I have 1 leftover F here, and then I can erase. You guys can tell I'm losing my voice a little bit. That's all right. And then finally, let's go like orange, G to the 7th power. Well, if I start to think about this in my head, if I have 7 of them, if I got rid of 2, that'd be a match. 4, that'd be a second match. 6, that'd be 3 matches and 1 left over. So I'd have G to the 3rd out here. I made 3 matches. Trying to squeeze this in here. So that's 1 set of 2, 2 sets of 2, 3 sets of 2, and then my 7th one gets left over inside. There's a lot to take into account with this one, and that's why it's at the end here. So my final answer, 28F squared, oops, it's a 1 squared, G to the power of 3, and then I have what's left over inside, a 10FG. Those don't have any exponents other than a 1. So we'll end off there. That last one, I'm sure, was a little tricky to follow, especially with my limited space here. But don't worry, you can go back, rewind a few times if need be. Okay, we'll wrap up there. Hopefully it helped, and we'll see you guys.